Okay, so we are back in public session of our September 11th, 2023 Kingston Select Board meeting. I am going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you a moment of silence in remembrance of 9/11 today. Thank you. Okay, we are going to start off with our first appointments. Our first appointment is Kelly Cawthorn, Live Free and Run Dog Park. She wanted to speak with us about key code locks. So if you please come forward. These devices, when you go to speak, if you just keep it in front of you, you got to push the button once to turn the light green, and that'll turn on your microphone. So the folks behind you can hear, and also the folks listening at home. So just start by giving us your names, and then go ahead and explain why you're here tonight.
Turn your
Green,
mic on,
green.
please.
Just push it once. Yeah, push it once to turn it on. There you go.
Okay, my name is Kelly Cawthorn.
And I'm Sandy Ranfone. I was here last year. We're here today just because we like to keep you updated on what's going on at the park, give you our insurance policy so that you know we're still covered, just to give you a yearly update. We are looking into putting a manual keypad lock on the front gate. So we just wanted to present that to you, see if it causes any problems for you, if you have any other suggestions, if you don't want us to do that. We just like to run it by you guys and see what you think.
I'm assuming that's because you just want to ensure the people that are going there have registered with you folks and are, going through the membership process.
Yeah, what we do is we have an annual membership, and from any town basically, and the members help pay to maintain the park, the mowing, the dog bags, and just maintaining the property in general, and supplies and that kind of thing. So what happens sometimes is in the summertime we have a lot of campers in the area, and they tend to come into the park and they're not members, and we don't mind, but sometimes it gets overflowed, and then we have most of our problems with people who aren't members. They're dogs, they don't seem to be socialized and stuff. So we're trying to minimize any liability from that kind of thing. It's minimal, mind you, but we just want to take precautions.
Okay, thank you. Board members, questions?
Yes, my question is, have you talked to Phil Coombs, our Public Works Director, about this? Public Works? Have you talked to Public Works about locks on the dog park?
No. So I'm sorry. That's one of the reasons we're here. We're not sure how we should proceed with it, if you required permitting or however we need to proceed, and if it was okay.
Yeah, I would say, before we would make a decision, I think we would just make sure we needed some input from Director of Public Works, whether or not he's actually in here now. This is their request about putting a key code lock on the dog park gates. And do you need some time to think about that or speak with them? Okay, because we may have to just weigh in on different any rules or regulations that we have, and he may have to get input from the fire chief of whether or not there's something related to that as well. So I would say your first stop should probably be reaching out to the Public Works Director to try and give him some opportunity. We can pass this information on to him tonight, and then give him some time to give a little feedback and input on the process.
Okay, if I could just add that we looked very extensively into it, and that keypad there that you see that I passed out, the exit is a panic bar, so if there's any issue. We also have a side gate where we bring trucks in for our sand pile or whatever, And we know that we can't permanently lock that because if an ambulance needs to get in or whatever. So we've considered all of that, I just want you to know.
Okay.
And just a quick question. It's a fairly substantial expense. Is this something that you folks are purchasing?
Yes, it's gonna come out of the membership fees. Our park is strictly driven by membership fees. And we average about 200 people a year. So we have a very minimal budget, so we try to build up a little bit of surplus so we can do things like this.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions for anyone else? No? So we'll forward this information on to the Public Works Director, and then just get some input from them and let you know of a time where we can make a decision or give any guidance.
So will you contact Kelly? You have her information, or how will we know?
Your email, maybe contact me via email.
What,
I think you-
I want to
I think
talk
you-
to Phil and get a phone number and maybe set up an appointment. That would be the best thing. It's right behind you.
That's him.
All right.
That's
If you don't get it right now, I can send it to you. I'm pretty sure we were corresponding by email.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much.
Welcome, thank you. Okay, our second appointment of the evening is Jeff Flanders McDougal, the unnamed roadway on the plains.
Thank you. Thank you.
give one to you.
No. Okay, I'll get it later.
Some of you may have known Elaine, and all of us were impacted by her generosity. Elaine was a compassionate and an avid community volunteer and supporter of our town for almost 40 years, having moved to Kingston in 1983. Just as a side note, Elaine passed away in January of this year. Her volunteer efforts in Kingston included being a member and later chair of the Recreation Commission. She served as the quote-unquote director before there was a director, planning all events, including the summer youth program. She hired and trained the staff, scheduled the field trips, etc., along with other year-long events for residents. This is while she was working a full-time job. She was a member of the Heritage Committee and a trustee of the Kingston Community Library. When the museum's headquarters moved into the Nichols Memorial Library, she was involved in the museum, and she headed the refreshments for the new history book sponsor party. For several years, Elaine cooked and served the meals for the weekly Kingston senior lunches. And she personally cooked weekly meals for several Kingston residents over the years. She was a long-term member of the Kingston Business and Professional Women's Club and director of the Eastern District. Her volunteer efforts expanded beyond Kingston with various nutrition councils, associations, and forums. Most importantly, she was a founding member of the New Hampshire Hunger Solutions. She served for over 22 years as a court-appointed special advocate for children in the CASA program. I feel her actions and dedication to our town should be memorialized. I wish there was a building that we could name after her, and I would welcome that opportunity. But at the present time, as her home is close to the plains, and there's a small unnamed roadway on the north end of the plains, I'm requesting that this be formally named Elaine Van Dyke Way. I hope you'll agree. It's a small gesture to honor Elaine's numerous contributions to Kingston. And I apologize for my emotions, but if you knew Elaine, that woman would give you anything. She was, you know, I can remember being at a library trustee meeting, and she said, does anybody have a car they need to get rid of? Because I know somebody in town that needs a car. That's just how she was.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Board members, I guess I'll ask from some of your experiences through town, what is the process we've done in the past for naming roadways, or does it go to, is it something that we have to do to town vote that's historically been done, or is it, because I imagine because if we're going to name a roadway, we'd probably have to, it has to have an E911 update.
I think, and I do think it's a warrant article, I don't think that the board can do that. I don't know how it's been done in the past. I've not been here long enough to have that happen.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the naming of streets is a responsibility under the select board's
Okay.
auspices. In fact, when planning board approves a subdivision, oftentimes names are suggested, but it's the select board's responsibility to actually do those names.
That is true when the library was built.
And of course, it requires coordination with police and fire to make sure that it's 911 compliant and that it doesn't overlap with other names and all of that. But I believe, I mean, we can check the RSAs, but I'm pretty sure that it's the select board's responsibility to name streets in town.
Thank you.
And would it be prudent, you know, I definitely support this, would it be prudent that we should have a public hearing on it?
I would say so.
I would think so.
Okay, then, you know, unless the board has any other questions, I think if folks felt comfortable with this, I think we should set it up as a public hearing so anyone could give input on it. And then I think the appropriate thing to do at that time would, you know, if we take a vote on it but before the implementation, to make sure the proper coordination is done with police and fire, that it's meets all the requirements of the state, E911 and all those provisions, and, you know, with the DPW director to make that happen. So, and I think maybe we could touch on all those issues at a public hearing.
And we also have a department head meeting, the end of them on the 24th, if we could coordinate for that, so that police, fire, and highway could weigh in at that time, so that we could. It's in the morning, it'll be in the morning, on the 24th.
Well, if we're gonna do it as a public hearing, it should probably be in an evening
okay.
meeting. Just if anyone wants to weigh in and give input on it, I think we just want to make sure we allow that access.
It could be discussed at the
24th, and then have it on the agenda for hearing on the 2nd.
Right.
How does that sound?
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah. She definitely.
I passed it by her son before I came to you to make sure it was posted.
Okay. Okay, we are at public comment number 1. Anyone from the public that would like to speak? Public comment number 1. Nothing, Chief? Yep, please come forward.
Leslie Hume,
Oh, green. Gotta hit the button, make it green.
sorry, I didn't
Yep.
know the new procedure, great. I'm Leslie Hume, I rise in support of this, thank you for supporting this. Elaine was a great contributor. In fact, during our Autumn Fest, which I hope you will approve tonight, we'll be holding Elaine Van Dyke, New Hampshire Hunger Solution Food Drive, which we hope will benefit the high school food pantry. So that's one of our efforts to honor her as well.
Thank you. Mr. Doyle?
Good evening, Dan Doyle, 156 Main Street. I spoke to Selectman Board Member Bash off the record a couple weeks ago about right-to-know information as far as salary and pay and everything of employees. Just wondering what the status was of that.
Yep, I had spoke with the finance director. She is getting that together because it's obviously compiling a new document because we wanted something, and as part of our efforts with the salary committee working group. But I'll meet with her. I have to meet with her on some other things this week, but we can get a date for you. You know, we'll get it out to you in the next week or so.
A couple of weeks, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yep. So it was he had asked if we had access to like kind of salary rosters, because sometimes some communities post in their town report, sometimes it's listed by employee, sometimes it's just listed by department, and Mr. Doyle had asked if we could do that, and he said, if I have to, I can put it in the 91A, and I said, no, I think it's appropriate. We're working on this with the salary working committee anyway. We're trying to establish all that information, and I think it'd be easier to have in a completely formatted setup so you can look it up by job classification and email. So we're actually trying to come forward with a document that's probably a little bit easier in case anyone wanted access to that information. Any more public comment? Okay, seeing none, we are going to move on to committee liaison reports. Lori, I'll start with you.
So I'm going to start with Human Services. There's a social services meeting on Wednesday morning that I'll be attending. There's talks of expanding our food pantry, so that's probably going to be a topic of conversation. And I want to read an email from a client that the director received. I am overwhelmed with gratefulness in my heart for you especially and all involved in approving this for me. It was a request for help with rent. It has been a long road and you were with me from the very beginning when you left me some gift cards. This journey has been rough at times for sure, but so enlightening and quite a learning experience in regard to others and their struggles, and especially learning about myself. I am so thankful for your compassion and help through my journey. Please share this with the selectmen and all involved. I am truly excited to move into my apartment and see where this journey takes me. It can only go up from here. Sometimes you just have to submit and hit rock bottom to be able to find the light. So it's just a nice thank you for the hard work that Marissa does and her outreach to the community. For the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee, our collection center starts on Saturday. It's 9 to 12, and we'll be doing glass and cardboard. That's our inaugural kickoff, and we plan on doing it the week of recycling, so every other week, and it'll be on Saturdays from 9 to 12. So at the state shed, which is across from the boat launch, glass and cardboard. And we're gonna start small and hopefully expand from there. Okay, and then the last thing is Kingston Days. I am exhausted. It was fabulous. We had a great time. I want to thank everybody who supported us, who came out and participated, who volunteered at the tables. Feel really sorry about the planes. I know they're a little bit of a mess, and the carnival made another impromptu road down the center, and they had to be towed out this morning and all kinds of stuff. But we had quite the beginning with that storm on Friday, and then it ended with the storm. So it was fantastic. So thank you, everyone.
And many thanks to all.
Chuck?
All right, Budget Committee. Push the green button. Sorry about that. Budget Committee is getting ready to start their meetings, probably the first one, the end of October. I don't know if Susan's got the schedule yet, but the schedule for the meetings, as was last year, is being done as we speak, based on having the budget ready to go in January for the deliberative. And we're going to some of us are going to a budget committee here run by the state tomorrow, or either virtual or in person, just again to get the newest information about budget and budget committee. I mean, the committee itself is established and pretty well has set rules, but they do like to change things over the course of time. And I think this year they may try to have a little bit longer meetings, but have fewer meetings as the department heads come in, so that towards the end they can sit down and go over all of the stuff, rather than having all the meetings and then maybe having one more meeting in December to kind of finalize it, depending on how it goes, with it. And I think most department heads, and maybe talk about it when they're here, have been encouraged to work harder on their budget this year, the new budget coming up. So with that, conservation, there's nothing that I'm aware of. Highway department, I'm not aware of anything, but Phil has so many different things on his agendas that he comes in here and goes over most of his stuff. Fire department, Graham is working on some information about billing with the ambulance service and maybe how it can be better set up for the fire department and for the town overall. Talking about a detail account, such as what the police department has, only a little bit different in the fact that kind of finding out that they don't have permitting. When they go and do a permit or an inspection, they don't have a permit and they don't collect a fee for instance, a wood stove. Why that was never set up with permits and stuff, I don't know, unless Susan's looking at.
There is a fee for those that we collect here.
There is a fee that, for them that you guys collect, did you know that, Chief?
Yes, so I don't want to get in.
I don't want to put you on the spot tonight, but we've been talking about that. He's coming up, but I was under the impression that
We don't have to get into details tonight.
Too many people.
Obviously, I'm still doing a lot of research, but like, for instance, Dunkin' Donuts was just revamped. So when they came to us, and Brian, my inspector, went over and took a look at it with the people doing the work, they said, oh, you don't have a fee to check on fire alarms and change fire alarms and inspect that? And I said, we don't. So I'm working on a fee schedule. I've kind of mimicked, I've looked at Laconia, Hooksett, Wyndham, Derry, a lot of places. So for sprinkler inspections and permitting, and then part of my I guess hope was that since the fire department would be the only department, I guess other than, we could even take the permits in at the fire department and then file them with Susan to put in the property folder once they're completed, that we could retain those fees as well to, work on vehicles and pay and all that good stuff. So kind of in the information gathering process now.
one of the ideas that he has, and just was surprised that we didn't have, like, the sprinkler system example, which he did give me, was there, and they don't have any means to do it.
Yeah, we don't have that. We just have the, for the
The other
heating
issue,
devices.
of course, is the building inspector does a permit, and the money comes back to the town for him to pay offset his salary. Well, the fire department's going out to do the inspection, but the money's coming back to the town, not to the fire department. So we're trying to at least have an avenue for that money, if that's what we decide to set up, to be able to go into an account. Can be one account, can be a safety account, or whatever it might be titled. But so that's coming up hopefully before the end of the year, because some of this might be a warrant article thing. Yeah, that's it.
With the police department, everything seems to be going great with the police department. A lot of the officers were down there for Kingston Days. Several of them participated in the dunk tank. I will say they were really out there.
I will say that you did forget something.
I did forget my floaty from my time in the dunk tank. I was wearing that with my cowboy hat. But it was great. It was great to see down there, and I loved seeing the officers were not just standing off on the outskirts or driving around. They were interacting with the people on the planes. They were going up to kids, talking to these families, and so it really was a good testament to the fact that I'm really glad we took efforts to increase salaries in a lot of town positions, because I know it's an overused saying, but the strength really is your people. And it was really frustrating over the years as being in law enforcement, watching a revolving door happen. As soon as these people would just start to get to know people in the community, they were trained and they were gone, and then we were losing these officers. So it's great to see folks staying around and getting more involved in the community. We have planning board meetings coming up. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I know the planning board will have to take up any land use warrant articles that may be either put forward by the town, because they're on more of an advanced schedule for meeting deadlines than other warrant articles. So I know those discussions will be coming up about any changes that may need to happen to any ordinances in town. So Lynn will be directing that to have the board review and bring forward any ideas. Glenn?
Okay. Let's see, well, I know the museum committee and the Friends of the Museum can certainly speak for themselves if they so wish, and they can do that when we get to public comment too, but they were very busy with activities for Kingston Days and having the museum open and having the carriages out there and so forth, so I didn't hear how that went. I saw the activity, I assume, okay, good, thumbs up, good, okay. It didn't rain for your part of it, right? Nice. The other thing, of course, that they have going on right now is the October 14th event, which we have in our packet tonight to discuss and hopefully sign off on. But that event is coming together. It's starting to be promoted out on social media, and there will be a car show, which has been added, and it was fairly successful on the event back in August. And so it will be another car show as part of that. And anyway, so that's all coming together. With regard to the museum, Phil has got a plan together to be, and should be happening fairly soon, on the Grace Daily Barn, starting to get that underway, get it lifted, and get the work done there. It will happen over the fall, and then the final phase in the spring will be the roof, assuming that everything goes to plan. Some local timbers have been ordered, especially hemlock, local hemlock, to replace some of the rotted and broken members in that barn. So anyway, so that's underway. The other thing that's happening is that in the Nichols building, the heating system is being replaced, and that's between now and the end of the month, I believe, is the plan for doing that, to make sure that there's a functioning central heating system before the winter. So, so that's the museum and the Nichols building. Historic District Commission, I'm sorry, Historic District Commission. I guess the big item on that plate is the restructuring of the application, so that, and it's what we talked about at the last select board meeting, where before an application comes to the Historic District Commission chair to schedule it for a meeting, it will get a zoning determination by the town planner, and once it passes muster that it's an allowed use in the proposed zone, then it moves on to an application for a meeting.
So on that, yeah, I had spoken with Susan. Did I speak with you on this? Might have been Tori. So we just wanted to make sure that those applications, it's only if they affect use that they're getting reviewed by Glenn, because it seems like, and I believe Susan Prescott agreed that it was only ones where if there was a question of use, because we didn't want to overburden Glenn with reviewing an application about gutters or something that wasn't related to a use requirement. So we wanted to streamline that process a little bit. And
right.
It was indicated to me that Glenn and Susan Prescott were both in agreement of that we were only supposed to bring the ones to Glenn for review of use.
It makes sense to do that. I know that when I made the proposal with the other folks here at the meeting, the assumption was that rather than trying to parse it out, since the HDC doesn't receive a lot of applications, we would just do them all, and 9 times out of 10, it's just going to be checking the box. He's just going to pass them on. They don't get a lot of applications, but by the same token, if there's someone qualified to make that determination ahead of time, and so that it doesn't have to go and take the time of the town planner, that's fine.
I did want to add that I've been working with Susan. I drafted that whole policy, and we were just kind of going through email about that same use on what does Glenn need to see? Is everything going to the town planner? So I should have something in front of the board soon for review.
Yeah, and I don't mind and I don't think he minds if it's when in doubt, if there's any question of all whether, just send it to him for review. I just think I just think he doesn't want to make sure he holds up anything on their end for them waiting for him to, bless it.
Yep, okay. So anyway, so that's all coming together and should be implemented fairly soon at this point. Nothing that I'm aware of as a significant issue for recreation, at least nothing that Paul has talked to me about recently, so hopefully things are smooth there. And I know that I'm not the official liaison to the library, but I'm working with Melissa on the grant that she's working on for the outdoor improvements. And that's the one where we're getting also the assistance from the municipal association under that pilot. But since I've got close connections with the funding source, I've been sort of working with her, and we spent about an hour today working on the application as well. So that's moving along. So.
Great, Ellie?
And I'm glad you're working with Melissa. She's a pretty exciting person to work with to begin with.
She is.
And she's come up with some tremendous ideas and programs for our community that are outstanding. So she's an ace, in my opinion. The Benefits Committee did meet a couple of weeks ago. I think we're in the final update stages. We had one more item that we wanted to include for review, for your review. So as soon as we get those updated, we'll have one. Then our next meeting, it should be approved to recommend to the board, and then you'll get a copy, and we'll go from there, so that hopefully we can implement for the next year. The Wage Matrix Committee also had met a couple of weeks ago. As I was telling our chairman earlier, I feel pretty overwhelmed because I ended up with town clerks, selectmen, land use boards, building inspectors, and it's all over the place, all over the state. And I'm not sure how effective I'm going to be, but I'm giving it my best shot.
I have one go back. Regarding Kingston Days, it was readily apparent that our electrical system out there needs an upgrade. We made it through, but we had a lot of SOS calls out to get us through, and a lot of the food trucks ended up running on generator, and we have panels that only a couple outlets work. So anyway, that's something that we really should hit hard soon if we want to continue to have big events on the plains, because the electricity grid cannot handle it.
Yeah, and I want to thank Eric Thompson.
Yeah.
He, with our primary electrical inspector, was away on vacation, and we kind of called Eric in a panic, and he actually packed up a job site he had going about 45 minutes away to kind of drop everything, come here. He arrived just as that storm started up, so that timing was horrible, but he gave as many Band-Aids as we could, and he kind of gave me a little historical perspective that he and his father took all that old equipment off of the fairgrounds and just brought it over and placed it on the plains, and he really advocated that if we are going to do some infrastructure upgrades, that we should really be, doing some digging to route the stuff underneath instead of those low-hanging overhead wires with open splices right in the middle of the roadway. The town obviously has an appetite for hosting events on the plains, and if we're going to support that, I think we need to create the infrastructure. I briefly talked with Lori over the weekend. I mean, my suggestion as we move forward as a board, and we can talk to the budget committee, but I think it'd be great to get some estimates or propose the whole project as a warrant article, because obviously if the town had, talking with individuals, and there seems to be consensus on social media that they want more events, but I would really like to know that the town fully supports if we do a major infrastructure upgrade, because it won't be cheap to do it right.
And it's time.
It is time.
Yep, we'll be coming up later in the meeting.
Just an FYI, we are soliciting quotes for that upgrade on the electric there as per the select board's recommendation last time, so that's in process.
Yep, and yeah, we wanted that information so we could have the correct information if we were going to push it forward, either through budget process or warrant article. Okay, so under old business, we have the Unitil LED lighting incentive. We have some information. Phil, are you briefing us on this?
So I sent a spreadsheet last meeting that we had. It was requested for more information, so I sent you all of the quotes on each of the buildings.
I assume the one marked library is really Nichols Building?
Correct.
Okay.
Would you mind just giving everyone kind of the Reader's Digest of, as we're
Absolutely.
reviewing this, could you give everyone kind of
Yeah.
listening the Reader's Digest on this?
So Unitil has a program where they will help you become more energy efficient. And so we put 5 buildings in front of them: the town hall, the Nichols Museum, the South Station, both of the DPW buildings, and the police station. So I guess that's 6. There is a certain portion that Unitil covers, there's a certain portion that the town has to cover, and from that there is a payoff time period. The only one I would not advocate for is the South Station. I think I believe it's 8.6 years for a payoff. It's such a low-use building that it can't justify the cost, even though it's minimal. It's really not necessary in my opinion. But the other ones I think are all great candidates for this program, and this is, I did this in conjunction with Rick Russman from the Budget Committee, who had done this program before, so he was a great resource in this whole thing, and he came around during the whole assessment phase. This is kind of a first step. This is the low-hanging fruit that Unitil will help us out with to get the lights going. There's a lot of great programs for that. We are getting close to their window closing for this, so it would be good if we could get a decision tonight, not putting pressure on you, but this would be the first step, and then from there we could go for heating upgrades or insulation, things like that, but this is, LEDs are just kind of a no-brainer versus incandescent and old fluorescents,
So would the position the board have to take would be permission, is it a grant process through them, or is this a permission to apply and then we apply and see, but we have to obviously be willing to pay the town's portion of the estimate?
Yeah, it would be very similar to the LED upgrades we did for the streetlights, in that we would pay the vendor. This AECOM is the vendor, and they're the ones who submitted the quotes to us. So they would pay their portion to them, we would pay our portion, I assume. I know a former selectman dealt with that portion of it previously, but somehow that would be worked out, and then they would come and do the work.
Okay. Go ahead, Glenn.
I mean, the question, back to what you were asking, Chris, is, what action are we being asked to do for tonight?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure.
And I'm not sure. I think we would have to commit to funding it through a funding source. Obviously, when you look at the payback and the return on investment, just even over the initial, and it is a quick turnaround for all those buildings except the South Station. I mean, the highest one after that is only 5.1 years to get the your payback for your return on investment. The other ones are as low as 1.6 and 2.9. So this is obviously something that will benefit the town continuously moving forward after that. So do we have? I'm assuming our initial discussion, we were talking about this being an ARPA funding project. Right. And I know we have some discussions later tonight about ARPA funding, but this is kind of one of those, I look at it as kind of a no-brainer. That's going to save us additional monies down the road, and the sooner we take action, the sooner we get the benefit.
Right. I mean, we've lost a number of years by not having done it sooner, and I mean, we could be into the savings at this point. And, it really is the low-hanging fruit of energy conservation these days, and with the rebate program through the utilities, it's an opportunity not to be missed. So is it my understanding, Phil, that there's a page for each of the buildings, and there's a number that says lump sum payment, and it varies by each building, and I'm assuming that's the town's share?
Correct.
Okay, so if we did all the buildings except the South Station, do we have a number? Did someone do the math?
Well, and I guess my question is, do we need to approve up to the total project cost in anticipation that we're going to get the offsetting cost, or do we, what does the company need for our commitment? Because I know you said a previous select board member had handled kind of how that cost share payment worked. But yeah, maybe the appropriate motion would be just the totals of the town's estimated cost.
Yeah, I think that's all I'd be comfortable committing to. All right.
I think he's getting it. I think he's adding up a number for us.
I'm trying to find my spreadsheet here, sorry.
Well, I also think even though the South Station is 8-year return, it's still a very minimal cost. I don't know why we wouldn't do it. It's 1,500. We might as well.
Chief, I assume you still have plans to use the South Station?
Phil and I had spoke previously about this, and I agreed that it's probably not a necessity, but back there thinking, I agree with Lori that if we're gonna do it and it's out of ARPA, then we may as well do everything, and especially if it's only $1,500. I don't see that building going away. We actually had an MRI study done 15 years ago roughly now, and they actually boasted that at some point we're gonna be using that more because there's more commercial development down at the south end of town. So for $1,500 out of ARPA, I would probably.
As long as you intend and the town intends to continue using that facility, then I think, yes, for the small investment, we should do it.
Yeah.
So if you have the total, the motion would be to expend an amount up to the total you came up with.
I didn't add the cents, though.
Gotta have the cents.
All right, let me give you 2 minutes.
At $1 per building, you'd be okay.
Customer cost after incentive line.
$19,042.01.
So I got
1942 and 1 cent.
Yes.
So
You move.
I will make the motion to expend up to $19,042.01 out of the town's ARPA funds for implementing the LED lighting upgrades to the town buildings identified in the report provided us by the DPW director, and
Could you have it be to also authorize the Director of Public Works and the Chair to sign any documentation needed for the application and funding mechanism?
and to authorize the DPW director and the select board chair to sign any documentation or paperwork required for this purchase and implementation.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Our next business item is the memorial tree planting follow-up.
Okay, we've had a little bit of discussion on this at the last meeting. We also touched on it a tiny bit under non-public, but it is a public item. It's on our agenda, and this was the discussion about a memorial recognition of some sort. We were sort of talking about a tree, but it could be anything. Tree was the item we initially talked about, to recognize Joe Thompson, who was our former town electrical inspector and was involved in a number of activities for the town, a lot of volunteering for the town. And so in the previous discussion, we talked about the possibility of a tree as a living memorial with some sort of designated, perhaps a marker of some sort to go along with the tree. And I just blurted out, well, gosh, we've got a dead tree at the fire station and a beautiful location there, and that tree's coming down anyway, so maybe we should put it there if we do a tree. And Graham was kind enough to respond, saying, well, yeah, we could do that, or you might want to think about maybe doing it on the plains, somewhere related to perhaps the electrical infrastructure that Joe was so involved with taking care of and making happen. So that sort of threw me a little bit off, and then I went and talked to Phil. And in conversation with our DPW director, we got into a conversation about, well, yeah, we could do it on the plains, but then again, we're sort of looking at a whole program for taking care of trees, replacing trees, so forth and so on. And the conversation just sort of never gelled at that point. We talked about lots of possibilities, and Phil, DPW director did identify, or did tell me that he has identified a source for trees at a pretty good price if we wanted to do a tree. And so it's back on our agenda to talk about, just so we don't lose track of it. To be honest, I was the one who made the suggestion for the tree. I think that I still think that's a good idea. And Chief Pellerin, I still think that the fire station location is a good one. It's a prominent spot in town. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, or how you really feel about it. I mean, if you'd prefer that it not be there, we want to take that into consideration. But
I have no problem with any memorial trees going on the fire station property. It's your building more than it is mine. Like I had talked to Glenn before, just with his involvement with Superman of the Dunk Tank and Kingston Days, I mean, he was the man at Kingston Days for years. So I just didn't know if the plains were just, I guess, better suited for a tree, but I have no qualms with it replacing the dead tree that will be taken down at some point at the fire station.
I personally like the idea of the fire station.
Graham, stay there. Phil, come on up.
And part of it is just because if we're looking at doing some electrical infrastructure, I don't want to be trying to plant anything next to that if we're going to be trenching, digging anything up and trying to replace some stuff out there.
Sometimes when you wait long enough in the conversation, you can tie it all together with a big bow. So I'll start from the beginning. Years back, someone had approached us about planting another tree on the plains, and the concern was the plains are an open space of the town, so they started putting benches on the plains, and then it became like these hunks of granite, and none of it was really regulated. What I had discussed with Glenn is we had a meeting scheduled with the state urban forester, the county forester, the Heritage Commission, and a couple other folks, and of course getting that many people in one spot at the same time proved far too difficult in the fall. Trying to map out what trees, you know, the ash trees are all kind of dying on there. There's some junk arborvitaes, things that just aren't really great for the application that we're looking at. So I do think a planned tree planting is good, and if we have people who are willing to fund that, that would be great. However, I think criteria is important on this because there's a lot of people who just want to plop a bench on the plains or a granite bench. And, you know, to the earlier conversation, the 3 roads that are on the plains are named after service members who were killed in action for our country. And the unnamed road that is mentioned is named Scotland Road by the state, because the state used to have control of Scotland Road. That was a state road, and the extension of it was named Scotland Road as well. It was not changed over. So just as some historical perspective on that, that is completely your prerogative, but in the past, those cross streets were named for individuals, native Kingstonians who had lost their lives in service to our country. I do, however, with relation to Mr. Thompson, if we are going to do ARPA funds to upgrade that system, to include that doghouse area, and that does need to be upgraded, I think that would be a great area and probably something that he would be very proud of, to have a dedication, kind of a plaque or something small on that. If we were to upgrade that entire area, I think that would be very suited for him and his contribution to the town. Is just my personal feeling, for whatever that's worth.
So something that I thought was pretty straightforward and simple is not.
All you gotta do is talk to me and I'll make it difficult. I apologize.
I like the idea of the tree in memory of Joe Thompson to be at the fire station. Yes. The station is the focal point, other than the church in the Plains, for the Plains area. I mean, that's where the majority of the bigger activities, the biggest tent is there for the Kingston days. The dunk tank is right across from it. Superman was very well known for years across from the fire station. So I kind of like to have at the fire station, then it doesn't interfere with the progress on the Plains, because that's a whole different plan entirely. So
I guess,
that's my opinion.
let me throw in one more thing. How about we talk to his family and see if we could kind of have two pathways here. If we're going to put forward either a warrant article or ARPA funding to implement the structure, we could, and if his family says no, we think it'd be great if you did something part of that, like, you know, protective enclosement encasement with the electrical grid and stuff, and dedicate it to him because that's what his lifetime career was. If they felt that that would be more appropriate, we could go that route. But if they wanted the tree, then we could go with the tree. But, and we could make it contingent on, you know, okay, if for some reason the funding mechanism or the warrant article didn't pass to do the infrastructure upgrade, that by default we would then make sure we at least did the tree, even if the family's preference was like some type of monument with the new structure set up.
So when you say family, I mean, I know his wife Robin still lives in town, still lives in the house.
She works out at Election Day, too.
And she works at Election Day. Obviously,
And
Eric
Son Eric, yeah.
is our assistant.
Yeah, he's one of our assistant electrical.
Right. I mean, those are the two, and then he has a daughter, Kelly, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'd be happy to take that on. I know, I'm very familiar with the family. I know Robin well and Eric. I'll talk to them both.
Okay.
And see what they would like.
If they have a preference.
Yes,
Yeah.
if they have a preference.
Okay. You guys okay with that? We'll reconnoiter after we get that feedback? Okay, thank you.
All right. Next item we have is we have some new revised town policies that I know a lot of work's been done on, and so we have our purchasing and contract review policies for anyone to adopt and sign. I've looked through the revisions. I think we're at a place where I feel comfortable with it, so we would need a motion to for the town to adopt the new purchasing and contract review policies for the town of Kingston.
So moved.
Second.
Second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Yes.
So the next item we have is the Ash Drive subdivision update.
Did you talk to Glenn? He did not get a full answer from Huddy about that. I did.
Okay. Okay. So we're still waiting for.
Yes.
Okay.
At his last conversation with her, it sounded like we may not need to do anything, but he wants to get a final answer from her, so.
Okay, so we'll just
So
move
that
it.
gets moved forward to the next.
Next,
Yep.
yep.
Okay, the next one is the New Hampshire DES ARPA grant for the point of entry systems. We were awaiting the review of the RFP by Department of Environmental Services. and there's a justification form for us to sign for Sanborn Head. So I know you've been working on this, and thank you for everything that you've been doing on this. So if you can give an update and an overview of where we're at.
Okay, I'll try to speak up so Dan can hear me. Susan and I have actually been working on this pretty diligently ever since the award was made. Little over about 2. The contract and the grant was approved by Governor and Council. We did get the final signed off paperwork, and we got the green light. New Hampshire DES has assigned us a project manager person to work very closely with us to make sure that we don't make any unnecessary missteps in the process. And Susan and I had a Zoom meeting with her very early on last week. We reached out to her right away, and we said, look, we better contact and get this in the. We want to make sure we're on the right path and not doing anything incorrectly. And it's a good thing we did, because we were starting to get the RFP together, and as soon as we talked with our person, she very quickly corrected us and said, well, not quite so fast. There are steps that you need to take. There are certain documents you need to include. There's a way to do this. And so fortunately, we've got that person to guide us. She's very good. She's very reachable. She's very approachable, very knowledgeable. And so we're proceeding in that vein. And I know that Susan can speak to it, but with this person's help, Susan is getting the documentation together so that we can get an RFP out to get a contractor secured to do the installation of the treatment systems in the 20 homes that don't yet have them. And then there's, as part of the grant, there's also the possibility that we could reimburse the homes that had put systems in on their own dime. Those we're going to have to review with DES, and there are certain conditions under which, and timing of them and all the rest, but we'll deal with that. So the step that we're working on right now is getting an RFP together, and DES didn't think that it needed to be a long window. They felt that 14 days was more than adequate. So if we can get this out by the middle of the month and have a bid opening at the end of September, then we can get somebody contracted, get them underway, and depending on what their window of timing is and availability of equipment, I mean, it would be nice to see these systems go in starting sometime in October and get it done before the weather freezes. And I know that Mr. Doyle is anxious for this because he doesn't want to have to deal with frozen water in his situation. So, and I'm sure that everyone else is feeling that same way. So that's Susan. Did I miss something? Anything?
Nope.
I just didn't see the justification form that needed to be signed.
It should be in that orange.
It's in the orange folder. It's a form that when we were speaking with our DES person, because we have identified and we're using Sanborn Head and Associates and continuing to work with them,
There we go.
because we had them under contract, we have to submit a justification form because we already have them under contract, and so it's sort of special dispensation to continue using them for the work that they're doing for us.
And any portion that's assigned to this project would be paid under this project, I believe. That's.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let's see. So just under old business too, I did follow up with the inspectors. Glenn was inquiring because it seems to keep falling to the wayside. A follow-up on some issues over at Bresnahan, the storage site plan over there. So I know the inspectors are going to be meeting and also speaking with Glenn Greenwood to discuss what they're to review and possibly make some recommendations to the planning board of potentially looking at taking actions for once they determine whether or not they've complied with site plan requirements.
Has not been the case so far, right?
has not been the case, and we just need to find out if anything has been done and what the status is. As Chris said, you know, we spoke about it, it was supposed to be taken care of, and then it just got, you know, we kind of lost track.
But it's been going, and it got continued several times officially through the planning board, and then it just kind of fell off the radar for a bit, but it's back on it.
Anyway, thank you for following up on that.
Our current company has not enough employees, apparently, right now. So they did not put in a bid.
It's KRT?
Yes. I asked them because I wanted to make sure that they were aware, and they said they were not going to bid.
Okay, so we got one bid. Thank you. We got one bid from the Cochran Consulting Associates Incorporated, and that's a lot of paperwork. So, okay, that'd be why. So it looks like general, just want to make sure there's not like another total page before I read this.
This is a 5-year contract.
Looks like it. Okay, so it looks as though it is for a 5-year contract. It looks like the total of that contract is $253,000. It's broken into 2 categories. There's the total general assessing services for 2024 through 2028. So it looks like year 1 would be $37,500, year 2 would be $38,620, $38,620 for year 3, year 4 would be $39,780, and 5th year would be $40,980. And then it looks like there is a statistical update, does not include utilities, and there is an asterisk next to that, and so that statistical update is a separate line of $57,500.
Substantially larger than what we're paying today.
It just off the top of my head, it seems much larger.
Yeah, because I think we're paying 27 these last few years.
And then the 5th year was
50,000.
a lot more. Yeah.
Do we know how many entities we sent the bid package to?
I think I spoke with Susan. I think the only one we may have directly known about it was our current one. So when Susan told me we only got one bid, I asked if we received multiple bids during the last go around, and she said we did receive a few. So I mean, now that I've seen these numbers, my recommendation would be that we refuse this current bid and maybe go back, look at the list of people that previously applied, do a new RFP, send it directly to them, and publicly post another RFP, because these are very substantial increases compared to the last contract.
I would support that.
Any more discussion? So we would need a formal motion to reject the RFP for assessing, and with the intention that we'll be putting it back out to RFP. Any further discussion?
Well, there was a hand up.
Oh. We're in further discussion. Come on up.
I know the town has retained the services of a utility specialist for
Yes.
appraisals. Just a thought that as we're entering the budget season, perhaps having some consulting money in there for specific items. A lot of these appraisal companies are very generic in what they don't specialize in anything. They're good at telling you what a house is worth on the grand scale, but as it comes down to the individual items, your one-off things, and I'm trying to think of a very generic thing I could point to right now without picking on anyone in particular, but I'm not going to do that but there are certain applications that require specialized expertise, and I would strongly recommend to the board that that be factored in for the budget this year on top of this money. I know this is more than what what you guys have planned on in the past, and it probably will be that even if more bids come back, just because that's how everything is going. But I would definitely, it's good to be able to pull in an expert on some of these specialized tax situations.
So what are you saying? We still have Sans Souci for utilities?
Correct, but perhaps someone in the surface mining expertise or other activities that are I mean, Sans Souci was a smart move because it was the top 2 taxpayers in the town of Kingston are utilities by a huge, huge margin. But there are other operations in town that there's just a generic house appraiser who's assigning a number to that, and they are using certain things from the state, but I would be willing to challenge that it's not the kind of analysis that needs to take place.
So you're recommending that if we put out a new RFP, that it maybe encompass some of those qualifications, or?
I would at least find out what their qualifications in those areas are, or allocate money so that an expert can be brought in to at least do a sanity check on the numbers that we're getting back.
Okay.
Just so the town is being protected and the business is being protected, because it should be open to, you know, expert review, and we should have the funds available to do so.
Okay. Motion on the floor. Motion on the floor. Any further discussion?
Just a point of information that in my mind, it's not rejecting this one just because it's the price. It's because, I mean, typically we at least have 2 or 3 to compare against each other, and the fact that we only got 1, I think it's our due diligence, I think, would be better served if we had more to look at.
And that doesn't eliminate them from submitting a bid.
Of course not.
Exactly correct.
No, yeah, nothing, yeah. My opinion on this has nothing to do with the content. It could be that this is just the new world with the cost increases, because the world was very different 5 years ago. Yep. They could be in the best suited, most qualified position to do it, but with such a large expense, we know there's plenty of these companies out here, because every town has to do this by law. So I would just like to see more. At some point, Phil, we're gonna have a memorial chair for you.
So, as Lori mentioned, there is, the collection point is opening up on Saturday, and we did receive permission from the DES Dam Bureau to conduct that activity in accordance with our lease for that area. So we are still pending our permit by notification with DES, but it is exactly that. So I'm not anticipating, since we have the permission of the leaseholder, I'm not anticipating issues with that. So I would strongly encourage anyone who has glass or excess cardboard that cannot fit that in their recycling bin. The glass, they should not be fitting in their recycling bin, but this provides a much more cost-effective way for the town to dispose of glass, because it's not going in as weight on our recycling. It is going in it's going into a dumpster that will go directly to Rochester and be repurposed as lining material at the turnkey facility. So as we move forward with this, we're hoping to take some other items, select recyclables. So we'd appreciate people supporting it. It's at the old state shed directly across from the boat launch. Just come on back, and there you will see signs directing you that way.
All right, great. Tax map updates. We have the 2024 maintenance contract with CAI. So it's been reviewed by Paula, our finance director. This is an ongoing maintenance contract. And it looks like we'll be paying, it looks like $1,900 for the map and GIS maintenance, and there's an additional $20 per building added or changed on the
Right, so
cards.
that won't come into play. It'll be 1,900 for the next year of tax
Okay.
map. Those, we're gathering information already that will be finalized next April 2024, so that's what that's for.
Okay.
We want to keep that going, to keep them up to date. And just to, so that's in there to be signed, if you agree. And then the other part of that is the Access GIS, the online mapping. That has got its own maintenance fee of $3,000. That's what we just got implemented in conjunction with the new maps. Now they are in GIS form on our website. We can get a butter list, it's all kind of stuff that we never could before, so.
So was that a separate contract in here?
That's already been
Oh, that one's
done,
already been
but that's gonna
okay.
be a maintenance item for the budget, just so
Okay.
you know.
So just because it's a contract, I just want to see a motion that we sign the maintenance contract
Sure.
from dated March 14th, 2023, which will be, if voted on, will be signed today, September 11th, 2023. The effective date for processing data recorded from April 1st, 2023 through 3/31/2024.
And that's in the budget?
It'll be in the next year's. We already had the contract through 2023. We didn't sign this one yet,
For next year, Chuck.
This needs to be in next year's budget.
right?
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
So,
Second.
did that go for review to Paula?
Yes.
Says it has been reviewed by the finance director. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
And if you haven't had an opportunity to use that, it's a great tool. So, it provides really good information.
So was that motion on both the tax map updates and?
No.
No,
No,
that
that
was
was
that was
just
ju-
updates.
just the one. It was just, yeah. Okay. So do we have to take a vote on the Access GIS online? Or, yeah, I thought you said we already took that up.
I just wanted it to be, you all to be aware that it's online and that there will have to be 3,000 budgeted for
Okay, so
that.
we need to get that in the
Going
budget,
forward.
so that's an item to be budgeted.
I did want to add.
next year's budget.
For next year's. So, and I did want to add that initially I thought we had to get another piece out of Avatar to make this work, to make it mesh. I found that out that we do not have to do that we have free online access through Avatar that we never implemented, so there is another document in there that you have to give them permission to do that. So that 3,000 will be all, and plus the regular Avatar.
Okay. All right, so then our next item is going to be permitting and assessing window hours. This is just an update. There were some folks questioning the time change. The office hours actually used to start at 9, and under the previous board had requested that they, during the summertime, they move from, open up at 8. But we have gone back to the through the September through March timeframe of 9 to 4 down the permitting and assessing office.
So I guess my question relevant to that is that, seeing that in the past, when we had the full-time code enforcement person, they would handle the window if somebody came in at 8 or 8:30. So I'm guessing now that if Susan has an appointment or something, she's not coming in at 8. There's nobody else in the building or on that window if somebody comes in at 8:30. Even though the town hall is open and everything's working, there's nobody there to work the window for any particular issue on that side.
But it's really no different than the clerk's office across the hallway. They have different hours than the rest of the town on Monday and Friday.
I'd like to speak to this one here. I would like to have the office hours for the assessing office 8 to 4. However, in fairness to the one employee that's in there, I don't feel comfortable saying, okay, we're gonna take back what we said we were gonna do and change and leave it at 8. I'd like to move it, that we go back to the 9 to 4 for now, and then come April 1st of 2024, and thereafter, the regular office hours, window hours will be 8 to 4. Now, the code enforcement officer, while he was here, was able to assist, and it wasn't his position to be always at the window, but they would trade off, and he was very helpful, and I would expect that to occur down the road as well. Because they need more help in there anyways, I'm willing to let it go for now. I concede to the hours that we agreed to a year ago, and go 9 to 4 from now to April 1st, but come April 1st, I'm going on record now that I advocate that we go to an 8 to 4 office hours on a regular basis, year-round.
To speak to Chuck's point, though, so it's been open for the site, and I understand what you're saying, Ellie, and I agree, but we have to ensure that people who are coming in and used to the hours during the summer, how are we communicating that now for the people on their way to work, stopping in to get a permit, now they have to wait for an hour? So what do we do with the people who are sitting there waiting for an hour, half an hour, until someone comes in? Just throwing it out there for discussion.
They literally sit there, they will have to sit and wait, which is what they used to do if they came in. There is a sign on the door that clearly spells out the hours, the entryway into the town hall. I believe it's the same on the website. I'm not saying I agree with it, it is what it is. So, contractors are out early, they don't want to have to come back. But I don't think we have the manpower right now, or the woman power, to fully staff it enough without creating other problems in other areas of that department.
When I'm there at 8, I'll help anybody that comes. And I do try to be there at 8 every morning. It doesn't always work for one reason or another. Sometimes I have appointments first thing. But we'll try to cover it as best we can. It does slow down a little bit this time of year for the permits.
But I think a six-month announcement that we will be opening at 8, not at 8:15, not at 8:30, not at 8:45, at 8 o'clock, starting April 1st of 2024. I'll ask for a vote another time.
So the consensus is we're gonna leave it as status quo right now, but people are on notice that then we may be looking to implement a change in the spring. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, we have the facilities use application for the October 15th museum event on the Plains. 14th, yep.
It says 15, but it's the
Okay,
14th.
it says 15th on the agenda, but, okay, so it is for the 14th, so. It was, a lot of folks picked up on that. So please come forward. Okay, so anyone that hasn't seen it, it's obviously for the event on the 14th of October. They're looking to use the Kingston Plains. It would be Saturday, October 14th, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It looks like it has been signed off by the police chief, Joel Johnson. There was an email attached from the fire chief. They've outlined any requirements that they need for police or fire details for the event. It's probably going to be similar to it's obviously similar to the status of the previous event that they held. And was there something different on the map? Oh, okay. So do you want to just explain that, to anyone listening, where the activity is? Perfect.
Is your mic on, Leslie?
Yep, need the mic.
So sorry. Yes, so the main area, the central area will be again used for the car show. They asked if they could come back and join us for October, for our Autumn Fest, which is great. We're gonna try to use the bandstand area for most of the activities. our cornhole tournament, our beer tent will be there, our food, and our other vendors. We have a big area there for, that we've used in the past for our flea market for many, many years. We're trying to work out a after-car show activity that would move into the bigger area, but we haven't firmed that up yet, so we're working on that. We did charge $5 a car. You did? We did.
$5 donation.
Well, yeah, the $5 donation. Yes, they did.
It was just, it was free to spectators.
Free to spectators.
And after the car leaves, we'd like to have some kind of family event for the.
Okay, I don't have any questions. It looks like they've satisfied the requirements for Director of Public Works, the fire chief, and the police chief.
I just want to make sure that you folks are all on the same page as police and fire with regard to detail and how many and all that.
After our August event, I followed up with the police and fire department, who had no issues with the event that day, and said that they would support our October event under similar conditions. We're adding the beer garden, so we're adding a police officer.
Yeah, we do need the fire chief's signature on it.
I would say, from our experience last Friday, when that storm came through and we needed to evacuate the planes, it seems like our weather is very unsettled. So we did evacuate to the firehouse, so I would like you to think about what your plan is in case some freak weather happens. Everybody wanted to stay in their tent in a lightning storm, and tents were coming down.
Right.
So that's, you take shelter from the rain, that's not the best plan. So that.
We've been thinking about that, because Stacy did talk to me about the issue on Friday night. Yes. And Graham had already asked us to add to the permit in August that the station would be the evacuation zone. We talked among ourselves that if there was an issue, where would we go to the 4 points of the planes to notify people where to go? And we'll do that again, and if he has any other additional things he thinks we ought to do, we'll work that out so we can clear the planes. But that's, yeah, that was a scary situation Friday night, and we don't want that. We want to make sure we take action as quickly as possible to keep people safe.
I will say it was handled pretty good, and everybody was really resilient, because as soon as the wind died down, it was still raining. People went right back out and picked up their mess and set up and carried on. But it was a little unsettling at first for a lot of people, so.
Thank you for your input.
Thanks.
Yeah, so Stacy had made that call. I was dealing with another issue, and she came over to me at the lobster feed and said, hey, we just evacuated. So I sent the ambulance around to pick up anybody else that needed a ride.
For the liquor.
So we had spoken before, and so this event, what are the actual hours of the event? Not the setup, but the hours, is it 8 to 8?
It's gonna be like 10 to 8.
Okay.
If we get our evening event would involve, you know, something in the dark.
Okay, do we have lighting for people in, because obviously in October it gets dark at like 5.
Right,
so
but only one area of the planes would be used. And
is that the lit part in the center?
That would be the lit part,
Okay,
right.
just, you know, trip hazards and all that good
Yeah,
stuff.
I saw that issue with the Kingston Days main tent, not the big tent, but your Oregon, and I saw Glenn putting up the lights inside.
We did, we learned that after the first night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with obviously a discussion that we talked briefly about earlier, the upgrade of the electricity, we should probably upgrade the lighting as well. But, so yeah, I'd require a detail from just the hours of the event itself, not set up a breakdown.
Okay. And here's hoping for no weather event.
Yeah.
We had the most beautiful Saturday in August, the best of the whole summer. I'm just extremely lucky.
So I would just look for a motion that we approve the special event permit and authorize the chair to sign all necessary documentation for the use of the planes by the Friends of the Kingston Historical Museum Association Incorporated for October 14th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you
All
for
set.
support. Appreciate it, and thank you to all the people who attend in August and Kingston Days and come out in October.
Next, we have, just one more thing under, I guess, do we want to, I think we should probably announce that other recognition date, or do we need to have that follow-up conversation first?
The other conversation.
Okay, okay, so I won't bring that up now. Yes. Okay, so board business. We're going to have some exciting budget review, and we're going to be going over ARPA expenditures up to date. And after that, we're going to, so for those waiting around patiently for what's going on, then we're going to have correspondence, some purchase orders. Actually, why don't would the board feel comfortable if we took up the purchase orders first, so any of the department heads can get out of here that are still waiting on that? So, I believe we have a couple items in here. One, Department of Public Works, we had some tires, and they're not cheap, so I'm guessing they're on big trucks. But that's an expenditure of $2,010. I didn't think the board would have any issues with that. Unless anyone can stop me if you have a question about something. One, we have a Dell 14-inch ruggedized laptop for Public Works. This is a mobile laptop. That's $2,028.75.
Just a question, Phil, is that a new or a replacement item?
So, kind of both. We had a ruggedized laptop that we inherited from the police that we would use for field input of certain things. It's never really worked properly in my tenure, and since we have the software where we have to input data out in the field, it's going to be for that purpose specifically.
So it's going to help to implement the new software that we're
Yes, because we have,
installing.
I have a guy coming off of light duty, so I'm basically gonna have him driving around in a car and inputting every sign in town, every catch basin and everything, so he can do that, and this will have a cellular reception so that he can have an internet connection so we can upload to that software.
I'm gonna vote yes, because I know it's the right thing to do, but you gotta stop spending money for a couple of months so that we can get caught up, just say it.
So this is stuff that we had already budgeted for. I mean, this is not anything that wasn't previously budgeted for.
I understand that. There are budgeted items all over the place. I understand that. I'm not saying it's not, and I know it's the right thing. But I'm echoing my colleague down the end there, Mr. Hart. We're 3 months before the end of the year, and I'm not sure we need to make sure we make the shortfall up, and I don't feel comfortable that we have. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna say yes on this, but I'm gonna give you a hard time for the next one. Just
I
give me
expect
a-
nothing less.
Okay.
Are you doing public comment? I didn't hear that on your laundry list there. Okay.
have that on. So, sorry, at home. We have another laptop. This is for the police department. I did speak with the chief about this. So he has a ruggedized laptop as well, but this obviously requires the stand. So this is to replace one of the outdated laptops that's coming out of the cruiser. I talked with him at length about this because it's one of the same conversations, but I do know with the new CAD upgrades and stuff like that have gone on at the county level that we run into the same issue. A lot of our laptops cannot be supported with any of the updates, and so they need this to do the job out in the cruiser. This is the mobile data terminal. This is how they run plates, backfill calls, and all that information. But I did have a similar conversation with the chief. The chief did come to me with notified me of another purchase order that he was highly recommended that he withdraw that until after we have had an opportunity to review the budget and some other items, and he graciously pulled that back from Paula in Finance. So that's it for our purchase orders, and in the interest of allowing anyone to, if anyone wants to speak in public comment, we'll open that up now before we get into our longer events. Did I miss that one?
Yeah, we have a timber and country.
Where did I miss that one?
Is that on the
Oh, it's
agenda?
it's just in the folder. We can go when we're doing board business. We can go through that. Yeah. Public comment.
The Solid Waste and Recycling Committee has a lot of information that it's trying to put out there, and one of the ideas that was floated was putting a additional bulletin board downstairs opposite of the town clerk's window. There's the IT server wall that has nothing on it right now, and I just wanted to check with the board to see if that would be acceptable to have that as a solid waste and recycling information point down there. There's nothing currently there.
Anyone have issue with that? No. I think we are okay with that.
Okay. The other thing is we're going to be getting a mailbox of our own. Right now, all our mail comes to the town hall, and I have had a couple letters that were addressed to me specifically that were opened by someone else that definitely should not have been. So we're going to be putting a mailbox in the over next to the police station. And I talked to Paul about it. That should kind of remove some of the redundancy of her getting our bills, sending to us approving them, and sending them back to her. So I just wanted to make the board aware of that. That's all I got.
Okay. Any other public comment? Please come forward.
I would just like to ask the board if you would reconsider, or don't do it again, shortening up our ballots in March to not include the full warrant articles for the planning, all the reference. You can find the assessment fees at the town offices and all these reference places. Let's spend the money so that when you're voting, you get a full ballot of all the information related to what we're being asked to vote on. It was very hard to find information. And I would also like to ask if you would please consider mailing town reports, because it's also extremely hard to get copies of town reports. You can come to Susan, but there was none at the library. There were no school reports, places that are open for longer hours. So I would just like to encourage you to get as much information easily accessible to the for these things so they can spend time with it at home and understand what's going on. I think we'd have a better outcome on some of the more difficult issues or decisions that have to be made.
We can make sure there are more copies that go to the library. They did get some to start with, and I guess they weren't replenished. There are still some downstairs. They're always in the hallway here.
Did you have any particular, I guess, I feel like some of these warrant, I feel like some of them are pretty long and lengthy, especially the land use ones.
I need to read them before I go to vote.
I mean, but we do post them up they're all posted online, the sample, even the sample ballots.
you're 80 years old, you're gonna stand in the polling place to read it? No, you want to get it at home, and read it at home, and go through it and ask people what they think about it and that kind of stuff. It's just,
For the well, you said for the ballots, so you want it sent ahead of time?
no, we used to publish, and I think you used to print out sample ballots. It used to be, Ellie, I think, we'd put paper, so they went to everybody's home. But the town report went to people's homes so they could review the finances and the audited financials and all of that. But I just think the few fans, by having the language, let's just suck it up, and it's all in one place, and people can not have to search and struggle to find the information they need to make a good decision when they vote for something.
I believe we can have sample ballots available at the town hall for people, in addition to the websites. I don't know that we're gonna mail that out. And even the town reports, it's cumbersome to mail out. It's online or available at the town hall. It's very expensive. You have no idea what it costs. And
Then on a warrant article and see if the town, the general population supports that expense. You guys, you've been dealing with all the technology in this room and everything else. And I know so many older folks, they're not computer literate, but they want to watch you on television, not on Facebook or YouTube or whatever that connection is. It's been very hard for them to keep abreast of things, and they certainly can't come down here and sit through the meeting, so.
no, I understand that, Leslie, but we do, they are available here at the town. The ballot is available here, as is the town report. So even though there are members of the community that are not as computer literate as the 12-year-olds, and I'm one of them, you can come here and pick up the hard copies. So it is available. You just have to, mailing it is a different story, but it is available at the town hall.
I understand the availability. I'm just saying I had a lot of difficulty, and even when I went to the school district office, they had no books to hand out there.
Well, that's their problem.
I'd have talked to them when I couldn't find one, but, I mean, Susan's great, but I just think we need to do more outreach to get people informed about how our government is running and what they're being asked to vote on, educate them.
Well, I can say that this year, any decisions we make in that are gonna be based on what's budgeted and allowed to make it happen, because we're already short on money in places, and if we don't have money to, entertain something like that, but absolutely consider it.
Sounds like a petition warrant article from a group, as you just mentioned. I mean, put it out there and let the people say, hey, do you wanna? On a lot of warrant articles this year.
So I'm just saying, on that note, Chuck, you're saying the first meeting of the Budget Committee would be at the end of October, you're thinking?
Generally, yes, 1 in October and like 3 in November, so, and she hasn't set the schedule, so I'm not sure.
For the record, I also support the idea of full text ballots. I know that when it was discussed at Planning Board, when I was on that board, it passed. I know it was, the Planning Board was approached about it because it's their articles typically that are the longer ones. Having experience seeing what it ended up being at the polls, I would certainly be in support of that, and I think that really is important. And I mean, I realize that these land use articles do get very long, and I wasn't sure that it was the right thing to do at the time, and having seen how it's worked, I'm convinced that it's not the right thing to do, to shorten them up, because a lot of the pertinent information is not there. Can you find it? Yes, you can find it. The full length, the full text is available, but be that as it may, I still think a full text ballot is appropriate.
On that note, you used to print the article, the paragraph, or whatever that was being replaced in full. So you would see the original and then the resulting article, so you could really see the difference and compare, and that's lost now.
I just think this is one of those instances where people would have signed up for information from the town clerk. This would be one of those email blasts that could go out from the town clerk to have the full, you know, the old wording, the current or the proposed wording, and it doesn't, I think there should be, you know, enough town reports at the library and other frequently visited places, but I understand the cost, but I just, so many people come up to me after voting and they're like, yeah, I just picked one. And it's, I don't think that's where we should be trying to skimp money is, or we should just make every other effort through any means to get as much information out to the voting public as possible. I know it's very frustrating your position that there's no one here other than the usual suspects in the background here, but I do believe that the more information we can get out to the voters, at least it takes away the complaint that they didn't know.
Just an FYI, the museum and the library are partnering and having a volunteer fair on Thursday, October 12th, from 5:30 to 7:30. Emails went out today to different organizations that we know are looking for volunteers, so hopefully we'll have a lot of organizations participating, and hopefully we'll be successful in rounding up some new volunteers.
That'd be great. Seems like everybody's an expert online, but nobody wants to step up and when it comes to volunteering for anything. Yep. So good luck. Okay. So any more public comment? Okay. So we'll close our public comment number 2, and we will move into our board business. And I guess we want to talk ARPA first.
I would do ARPA first, yeah, shorter.
So I guess the discussion we wanted to have, as we talked about, is that there is a finite amount of time to expend ARPA funds, have them committed, have them expended, and I think the town had been kind of sitting until the pandemic had cleared before they were committing to certain projects. We have expended a significant amount of the funds up until this date through, you know, this board and previous boards. But we wanted to make sure that we're looking at what our available funds are, what are some of the projects that we wanted to make sure we tackle with this, and also we were looking at reserving funds. So I think this will definitely tie into our budget update accounting of the current budget to see if we needed to withhold any of this money to offset any unanticipated costs that have come up. Obviously, there were some big ones this year with solid waste and recycling and the changes on the commodities market. So what's the board's pleasure on this? You want me to read off all the projects we've done to date, or are you guys comfortable where we're at to date, or do you just want to talk about remaining funds and projects that we think are on the horizon that have expressed an interest in the town for utilizing these funds? Yes. Okay. So I will open it up. So so our current available balance of amount left is we have $360,000, $713.51. Yes, minus the money we just spent.
340, which was
the lighting.
19,000
right.
and change.
I was looking for the. I wrote it down. Right.
So, yes, Paula.
So what you really have is 200, with the 19,000 that we just spent,
Okay.
278,671 that hasn't been,
Okay, because we haven't expended some, but it's committed to other items. Okay.
278,671.
yeah, that's the new number, subtracting that new 19,000,
What's the change on it?
11 cents,
Must be 50,
huh?
wasn't it?
278,671.
Yep.
0.11.
0.11.
Yep. And so when I came onto the board, I know the previous board, they had been talking about, you know, there's some upgrades that had happened at Town Hall. They were talking about building walls, creating new office spaces, and money just kept getting chipped away at because of needs of the town. So I'm interested in hearing, you know, I know Ellie, you were here during some of the previous conversations throughout COVID when all this money started coming in. So do you have any projects that you are aware of that the town was already looking at to move forward on, or where you think we should be going?
the town hall was one of the buildings that needed some updates. Okay, sorry, thank you.
Town hall needed updates, and the biggest one was, of course, was the acoustics in here to accommodate our viewers at home or on YouTube. And from what I'm gathering, this is working so far so good. I haven't heard anything negative about the current
Status of the acoustical arrangements.
But the other piece for the town hall was in renovating it to make room for more office space. And we had talked about sending out bids, requests, or working with a design company to see what could we do with the town hall that preserves the integrity of the historical value of the town and yet affords us with opportunities to have some more workspace, because it's definitely a problem, as you all well know. So that was, I think, one of the few things that hasn't been done that needs to be addressed still.
And just one of my concerns is that this late in the game with ARPA funding, if we start engaging, you know, especially somebody that specializes in buildings with historic value and property, I worry that the time it would take to do architectural analysis, come up with budgeting and planning, and then find a contractor that can meet those requirements within the monies we have allotted to spend, are we gonna meet the timelines now? I definitely think it's a valuable piece. I know we obviously, everyone loves looking at the boarded up front stairs, and I know our Department of Public Works is looking at that, because it sounds like when some of those revisions were done, they didn't properly stabilize, you know, the subsurface to accommodate the weight of those steps, so they shifted. So if there are gonna be any repairs out there, it's gonna involve the complete removal of that and put that back in. So that's not a cheap project in itself. But I think.
But the issue was this town hall, this built room we're in now.
Yeah.
Could we utilize it better? We don't have, as a select board, you don't have a private meeting space to begin with. We have, you know, Susan's office, but that's limited in a space more than anything else.
And did some of the previous talks talk about possibly using the stage space for officing?
Exactly correct.
So when I think maybe that, you know, I don't know, Phil, you had some experience, obviously, previously being on the board in those conversations. If we're doing stuff that's not going to affect the exterior, that sounds like projects that might be more doable within a time frame, because then we're not worried about the restoration or preserving the architectural integrity of like some aesthetic views.
We're not looking at the exterior of the building, other than the stairs. And you're right, that has to be all taken out. Probably wasn't done right to begin with, but the last couple of attempts have not been successful because not enough of it was pulled out of the underpinnings of the stairs in order to make it work. So that wouldn't be setting aside this hall and the better utilization of this hall. Are there functions from downstairs we could move up and open things up even more for downstairs? I still think we need to look at it.
Yeah. Okay. Then why don't we kind of go around? If everyone has some items, let's get it all on the table. What we think are some of the items that we want to look at, and then we can start shifting the focus. So, Glenn, put you on the spot.
To be honest, I'm not sure that I have any specific ones to recommend. I will tell you, though, that altering even the interior of this town hall is something that I have some reservations about. I know that this space doesn't get utilized necessarily as much as it should. There is some history to this building. I mean, having a stage like this could have some value to the town. I realize it hasn't been used very much, so I'm hesitant to start carving things up and affecting those spaces. So,
We can agree to disagree.
well, I know. The other thing that I recall from listening to some of the select board discussion previously was that some of the select board members wanted to make sure they had offices for their own. And to be honest, I see no need for that.
That's not where I'm going.
Perhaps a better way to have some private meeting space, maybe. But But I mean, have we even looked at the overall utilization, like of the space downstairs? I know it got reconfigured. Do we know that it's not working well? Have we done that analysis? I don't know. So anyway, just.
And that's why I kind of wanted to, you know, Phil, you look like you want to comment on some of the historical perspective here. By historical, I mean like board talk.
So, just for some perspective on the town hall upgrades that were proposed, I just pulled up the engineering or the architectural proposal that was floated, and it was about $27,000 for plans. As far as the use of the stage area, it was kind of a twofold thing, because that entire back wall is not insulated in any way, shape, or form. And if you ever walk down those stairs in the winter, you'll know that's the case. What was going to be done was to maintain the facade of the stage, so this would look exactly the same, but it would be basically cut down and back and turned into a meeting room that could actually not be eavesdropped into when non-public sessions were taking place through cracks in the door that you can hear everything through, just FYI. And then also as storage space for human services, so that the meeting area did not become a catch-all for, you know, in the Christmas and Thanksgiving time frames where we're just loaded up with stuff in those areas. The other main thing besides the stairs was the heating and ventilation system in here has been cobbed together numerous times, and the office configurations do not match many of those adjustments. So as we've adjusted office spaces, the heating and ventilation does not keep pace. As Susan can tell you, having her window open in the middle of January because it's too hot, or vice versa. I can tell you the oil furnace over on this side is about 79 feet away from the next oil furnace, which is about 25 feet away from the oil tank, and constantly goes out. We have to constantly respond here. And as we're trying to switch most of our heating systems to propane, because it's cleaner, safer, and overall more efficient, that is one of the things that in the long term would save the town a lot of money, getting out of the old ancient oil furnaces that we have.
Now, on the office space conversions, was any estimates done towards any preliminary cost, or is it just you'd have to come up with really the plans first? Because I know my personal experience trying to build something right now that is not historical and it's brand new construction, prices are astronomical. So I can't imagine the cost while trying to maintain any historic preservation items as well is going to be expensive.
Downstairs is,
yeah,
the historic ship sailed a long time ago.
That's just we reconfigured office space, but you know, and I definitely see some of Glenn's hesitation about up here because you know, is it really going to get utilized properly? I personally don't think the select board needs their own offices by any stretch of the imagination.
I think it was just meant to
it'd be nice if we just had a desk with
room.
one shared computer that we could log into at some point, but
I think the intent was for it to be a smaller meeting room that would have television capabilities. I know a lot of people are using the fire station now, but you know, for committees under 10 people in here, it's way too big. So that would be what that room would be utilized for. And then there was talk of potentially having Susan off of that conference area. But you know, that's certainly the board's prerogative. From all I've heard, I think the current office configuration is working pretty well for everybody. I think it would just be a matter of making the HVAC system match our current office configuration versus renovating much else. And then part of that was, you know, in keeping that facade, we would have all of the HVAC that is currently under that stage would just be run in the facade. So it would go about 2 to 3 feet behind the curtain, and that'd be where all our ducting would go. Potentially looking at some mini splits for the individual offices so that individual office users could set the heating and cooling to their own liking. So.
okay. No, I think that's a great idea. And the heating and, you know, upgrading the heating system if we weren't looking at a major overhaul of offices.
Yeah, and I mean, the HVAC and the front steps, I think clearly are critical
Yep.
and should be targeted for.
Yeah, because I mean, not only are the front steps, it's a hazard, it just this is the focal point of our town government, and it looks terrible. Okay. Chuck, any?
No, I think to allocate a percentage of it for what Phil's suggesting with updating the HVAC and those kinds of things, whether that's 100,000 or 150, or, you know, whether a particular amount that you might want to encumber, as it were, so that we don't nickel and dime it. And then the rest, whatever that rest might be, do as we're doing. I think we have a couple more years before we have to actually spend it.
Have to be expended fully by the end of 2026.
Okay, so.
But you have to promise, like, figure out what you're gonna use it for by the end of 2024.
Yes.
Okay, so
So we only,
time is approaching,
time
2024.
is really
Which, you know, we could probably do in one night if we wanted to, because we would find the project if we have to spend the money, but I think that whatever proposals or information or money-wise you can do there, but I think we should do something for the building, whatever is, you know, suggested there, the backup with the stage. That would be fun to think, that all this is going to be left here. You're not going to see is what's in the back with the walls and the different work that he wants to do. So I don't have any other particular. I know the big, the big issue a while ago was they were saving up the money for the water issue, because we didn't know what was going to happen with that.
Correct.
Now we've got that grant, you know, that some pressure, at least wise, is off on that. And I know a part of that, as I recall back when, was they were talking about buying some property to have a water source for the town, a clean water source, and they were looking at buying, or thinking about buying some property if it was available in the right place.
I believe that was coming out of the focus funds. And the seller remains elusive to this day, so.
Lori, any that have come across to you?
upgrading the electric on the planes. Absolutely. Having experienced the problem of it firsthand, I think that and Phil mentioned that we're gonna get an estimate, so we can either put it to warrant article, but depending on the cost, I think we might wanna use ARPA funds.
And we should also talk to our department heads at our next meeting too, to see if there's some issues that they would like to have addressed in their departments. It would be appropriate at this point to start that discussion as well.
And my suggestion, and I agree, and I know we have tapped into a lot of ARPA funding for some of the projects around individual departments. My recommendation to the board would that we put a temporary freeze on the expenditure of any ARPA funding until because it seems like we have 3 projects that everyone seems in support of at least getting estimates to know where they stand. So my suggestion would be that we do not allow any more ARPA funding expenditures until we have cost estimates for heating and HVAC upgrades for the town hall, a cost estimate for the front step reconstruction, and well as the infrastructure upgrading with the electrical. And I know there was talk possibility putting water on the, access to water for some of these events, which that would cause a well and a point of entry system and a doghouse to house it, but I think those are 3 projects that we've seen a lot of support and agreement for. So I would like us to at least have those numbers, and then we can make a determination, because we could find out, we may get a cost estimate that HVAC blows out all of what's remain, or, we may find out, that one is completely cost prohibitive and may have to look at other ways to fund it, or warrant articles to fund it.
Yeah, I mean, the HVAC and the steps could very well consume the rest of what's left. But we'll see what the estimates look like.
Chief, you gonna try and fill out a purchase order for ARPA funds before?
Before Rich St. Hilaire left us, and no offense to Phil or anybody here, but going through the process of the fire station, if it's just my opinion, if you do not hire an architect, even for something as small as heating and cooling, you're making a big mistake. All the things downstairs have been pieced together by past department heads, by ideas written on napkins, and that's why you're in this situation thinking about what we should be doing. There's issues in this current town hall because of past contractors that are illegal and like not NFPA standard compliant and all that good stuff. So it doesn't have to be, I know SMP had talked to you guys about it, and I know Rich St. Hilaire even brought Anthony over from SMP, but if you don't do a needs assessment and, you know, Glenn wanting to keep the flavor of this room, once you hire an architect, he or she will tell you how to do that, and, you know, exactly lay out where offices should go and the flow path for Tammy and Susan and, you know, customers coming in, so.
I can tell you, I do not want to hire whoever designed the men's bathroom downstairs, because it is the most awkward and inefficient use of space I've ever seen.
I bet there was no architect that designed that. I bet it was.
I don't think that person would even be an option. That's a long time ago.
Okay.
So just my.
That's great input, thank you.
So how's the rest of the board feel about getting cost estimates on those 3 major projects, and then?
Totally agree.
Agreed.
Okay, so department heads take notice. I wouldn't bother submitting any purchase orders to Paula right now for requesting the use of ARPA funding.
Well, the bottom line is you can request all.
Okay, so let's move into the budget. I don't think we need to go necessarily line by line, Chuck. Maybe if there's some outliers, with the understanding that I you know, when a contract line is already spent at 100%, that's because we already paid the contract.
Can I just make a comment about the stage? So the stage has not been used since 2019. Carol Meisenheimer had a play for the 325th. Prior to that, people were discouraged from using the stage. It made it very difficult for people to use the stage. The Boy Scouts used to want to use it, but they were like, oh, well, we don't know about keys, and we don't know about leaving and entering. I believe contra dancing had a hard time using.
They're already on the calendar.
Right. But it used to be very difficult to use this room and to use the stage, that there were too many roadblocks put in front of people. I'm sure if people knew it was available and they could use it, people in the community would use it.
Yeah, then maybe as we look at the HVAC upgrades, if there's, you know, because obviously I can maybe see some concerns about electrical panels and stuff like that. We just want to make sure that those things are, as long as there's no safety issues, I don't see why you wouldn't want to encourage the use of it if it's a space that we have available.
Right, and, you know, at the very least, I mean, Phil identified an issue with the non-insulation on that back wall. I mean, there's an improvement that would probably pay huge dividends in both comfort and cost in heating this building. And, you know, maybe doing something to improve that would be a big help.
So, Chuck.
All right. So, you've all got the copy there, and the red part of it obviously tells you what's over budget. Well, not really over budget, what's under budget, in the sense it hasn't been spent. But revenue-wise, same thing, we're about where the estimate should be for revenue. Revenue is revenue, it's hard to tell because we don't have grants and stuff in there, but it's pretty well there. The big one on there is, of course, the car registrations. And that's $982,000, and we budgeted $1.4 million. So it's at 67% of where we budgeted for. So, I mean, that's our big income stream out of the revenue. So it looks like it hasn't slowed down from last year. On the budget itself, we should be at, when you're looking at the numbers, that 67 to 70% use of the budget is right, would be online with the budget. Anything less than that, obviously they haven't spent it yet. Anything over that is the ones we got to be concerned about going down the road. And again, the executive branch is unfortunately, the executive branch is at 73%, which means it's a little bit higher than something on, there's a couple of things on there that are, you know, not fitting in. We won't get into forms and envelopes is I don't know why it's way off. I think it's just a matter of putting funds in different accounts, but elections and registration is at 69%, but they're not spending any more money, so that one's fine. Financial administration, which is the budget and town clerk, town treasurer, but Paula's going to separate those for us for budget committee purposes, correct, Paula? Remember last year when you need the budget committee, for instance, that budget needs to be separate with the total for itself rather than included in all of these. Just the way we had it. We had it last year that way, so.
Well, this is just from QuickBooks, it's not my spreadsheet that I give you for the budget.
Okay, all right. So when you look at that combination there, well, they got the treasurer's salary and the trustees of the funds and that in there also, but that's at 75%. So there is something that we might want to keep an eye on there in that. And I won't bore you with that because I've got it listed there, but personnel administration at 76%, not much control over that, other than the fact is that a lot of the stuff has already been paid, or 3/4 of it have, so that should work out well, or be to the dollars that we want it to be at. Except, what did you say today, Paula? Retirement's a little, we gotta work on that?
That's a little off, but.
Yeah.
It should
Yeah.
be okay.
Planning and zoning, again, we normally separate those out, but that's 37% on total use of their budget. So again, that's close to it. Most of that is the ZBA and the HDC don't spend a whole lot of money this time of the year. So government buildings is the only big thing. Their fixture and repairs is overspent. Hardware and tools, but heat, where is this? Got this. I can't find the total on that. Government buildings. Oh, Nicholas Library. All right. So that one actually, he's in decent shape at 53%. Again, we got to watch. Again, we got the water cooler rentals, whatever that. I think that's the water that we give out is.
Those water cooler those are the water coolers like here in the town hall. The police,
So that's
like,
over budget.
That's different.
And not over budget, but it's, yeah.
Just under the utilities, under electric, under town hall, it says we've already spent.
No, so the way the budget, like the program lets me do the budget, I can't do each individual like line item.
Okay.
So it's just utilities. And so the budget for utilities
so that's
is 25, but we've only spent 13.
Okay, great.
Like,
So, yeah, it's 55%.
Okay.
so it looks like
I saw
each
that
line item
category
is
up
over,
above.
but it's really not.
Okay, thank you.
And when I finish my spreadsheet for like the actual budget, that's when you'll see the actual line items, like.
But in general, the heating and the electric on all of these are well within the budgeted items, so there'll be some savings there as we go along, unless we have a massive problem in November. Cemetery, I think the problem with the cemetery is there's still money not being allocated to the contract services line. So it shows that at 14%. So that at some point's got to be worked out as to where and how that's gonna work.
I have all the bills, and I was talking to the trustees, we were trying to figure out how we were gonna do it, so now I know, and I can put that in here.
Okay. 'General government, 23 for the other general government, which we cut way back last year, is at 23%, so there is hopefully going to be some money there as far as the shortfall goes, which is
It seems
what
like,
it's kind of for.
I think one of the trends that I saw in some of the larger departments, it looks like some vacancies, it looks like with some of the larger departments with some vacancies, that's gonna create us some buffer if those percentages are accurate on salary expenditures, which those are some of your biggest lines in each of the budgets. So that'll definitely, I think, I'm hoping that'll potentially be able to absorb some of these other areas where we need to make up with some of the other big ticket items.
Gasoline line is only at 41%, so that's, unless there's some big invoices out there that Bill hasn't said it submitted of the guys for the trucks, but,
I don't get those all the time, like I don't even think it's monthly. It's like quarterly, kind of, that we get the gas for all the fire, PD.
all the gas that,
For the trucks,
Yeah,
like the
all
gas.
that, yeah.
So I can't remember how much it is for one payment, but it's for all the departments, but we're fine with that one.
police department, overtime's up to 84%. I don't know what that is yet. I want to ask him about that. But overall, the police department budget's at 63%, which is right kind of where it should be for the
And
9 months.
we should have now it should start cutting back on that police overtime with those 2 positions converting to salary, so those won't generate overtime anymore. So that should help those lines.
Part-time salaries is 47%, which is down, which is because of having the full-time working. Computers, well, I don't know, again, that's a matter of where we put the money, but we've used $1,199 and only budgeted $1, so I assume that's gotta be put somewhere else.
So that, well, that could go there. So what it is a printer for their booking room. They needed a new printer, it died. So, and the point of the $1, having a budget line for $1 is so that money in their budget can be allocated to that line item.
Right, no, I know they put the $1 in to leave it open, but it doesn't,
So we don't need to, we can keep it there.
no, it's just a matter of that particular line item, which reflects on the bottom part of it, is over by $1,199, because there was nothing budgeted for it. So.
No, we take it from another line item, that's what happened.
I'm just saying, at some point, you gotta take it from it. Right now, it shows up there, right?
Yeah, I think it's just important for us to understand where any shortfalls may have happened or any overspenditures as we go into the next budget process.
Right. His electric, just because it's pointed out, there's like at 45% for that, so the budgeting is good. There again, we're coming into colder months, but his heat is at 44%. Prosecutor. Really nothing else.
Seminars and trainings is over.
Yep.
Yeah, is that under the PD?
Yep.
Yeah, and part of that is because some of the statutory requirements that have happened with all the Accountability Act and commissions, they've required the number, they've increased, there was a stepped tier program where they've increased the mandatory number of new training hours you have, so by the end of this cycle, it'll actually require all police officers, in addition to their use of force, firearms, and other stuff, they're gonna be required to get 24 hours of annual new training every year, and that has to be in some of the category that they've never had the training before, and and now after COVID, a lot of classes that used to be put on for free or were much cheaper to do remote or instruction classes, everyone is charging full boat for anything, even online or remote. So classes have gotten very expensive. Some of the trainings we're sending deputies to, they're $700 a class per person for a week-long class. So tremendous costs and training costs.
And you don't have a choice in a lot of cases.
So I guess the cautionary tale there is that in the upcoming budget season, under lines like that, we'll just have to be cognizant of it and make sure that we get it covered.
Yeah.
Again, supplies, it's at 91%, I don't know. Again, some of this is bookkeeping stuff, I would guess. I mean, supplies, why would he have used up 91% of his supplies and he's got 3 months left? That means we don't buy any more paper.
Well, either that or you're buying it in bulk, or you're buying in bulk early in the year.
Yeah, and all the paper, that goes in the executive supplies line.
Right, I'm just using it as an example.
But, yeah, it's just stuff they need for office and whatever.
So overall, he's at 63%, so it really isn't, he's where he should be for coming into this year's budget. If it goes the way it is, it'll be 100, won't be much left over. Fire department, salaries, overtime is at 71%. Salary secretary EMT is at 70%, so that's up a little higher than the budget would indicate, but overall, everything else is,
Yeah, I mean,
Comstar fees, you can't help that, dues. His electric is at 84%, which we knew going in that it wasn't gonna be easy to guesstimate. The heat's at 66%, so the heat's good. Rolling equipment is at 35%. Overall, though, this budget is 51%.
yeah, I mean, I feel a lot more comfortable where we're at than where we were 3 or 4 months ago when some issues came up. I know right now, the solid waste and disposal recycling, that's a big one still, so we're currently at 101% of that, so do we have a projection of how much we think that'll be over, you know, based off the current calculations? Solid waste and disposal.
Getting ahead of me.
What number is that?
Which
I know.
page? We went ahead.
Oh, sorry.
He did,
You did
totally.
go ahead of me.
In the interest of time.
Well, in the interest of time, it's information, so we're here.
We're at 80%.
80%.
We'll end,
4323, page 14.
yeah, page 14, I got, yeah, 432303, it says, so, yeah, so that's, we're at, you know, out of the budget, we've already expended the full budget, and we have 3 months left.
And so the commodity recycling has been going, that's the new bill. That's been going down. It was like, I think, I can't remember off the top, of 9,000 or something the first few months, and then it's been 6, around in the 6s.
And, I mean, do we attribute that to maybe people recycling less due to?
I was gonna, but then August is super high.
Okay.
Typically, July is our high month, August has been way, I mean, it's trending in the same direction, there's more people throwing out trash, so they're not putting as much glass, is my suspicion, but we're still getting whacked on those commodity fees. They're not, they were kind of going up, and then they're going down,
So, sorry, I didn't mean to jump too far ahead, Chuck, I just.
Well, just highway department, actually is at.
Can I just say something on all the salary lines? So I try to move what the budget for COLA was to the salary line, like to say that, because we did allocate it, and the pay for performance. So for the pay for, I can't say it, but the pay for performance, what I did was, it was gonna be a lot of work to split it up between each line item, so I just put it under salaries. Like, so when you see like the fire secretary, her almost being, well, her pay for performance isn't in there, it's in the salary for the fire.
Oh, okay.
So highway dumpster rentals are up a little bit. Electricity, however, is at 40%. Equipment repairs is at 49%, which is good. The heat at 67% of what the budget should be. Office supplies, that's over 2. Totally, the highway department basically it's 49%, 50% of its budget, which is good. Snow plowing is 62%. Signs and barricades are 92%, assuming you're not buying any more of those. Going by the budget, that's all. And the seminars and trainings are up there also, but as you had explained.
It's everywhere.
Whether it's highway or police or fire, it's up there.
Yeah, it's not police exclusive to the increase in training costs.
I've said that numerous times, that I would be over on that line.
Yeah.
Street lighting is 52%, the other stuff is grants. Sanitation, we just talked about. Health department, the mosquitoes up at 61%. And basically, they're up 88%, but the big thing there is the water cooler rentals again, which is the water, I think, that we're giving out, which is.
Yeah, that water cooler rental, I don't know why it's called that, it just, that's what it's been called. but that's the water that we're providing the residents.
And then the
So that's the line that, once we get under the program of the, getting the new systems installed in those homes, that line should go away.
But then we have to account for, we have 1 year of maintenance, but then we're gonna have to put that maintenance cost of the systems back into the budget, which is gonna be more than this water.
Right, but, right.
Right, and that'll go under our contracted services. And also the water analysis will hopefully go away or be a lot less after, all the systems go in.
Right. I mean, it's something for us to keep in mind is that we're going to be testing as time goes on, and we've already seen in some of the recent testing that levels are dropping in some cases, in some sites. And it might very well be that in 2, 3, 5, whatever years, you know, some sites will be below and be within limits, within the established limits, at which point, you know, how much obligation are we going to have to continue testing at that point? And so, just something to be thinking about.
But I would just, you know, I just don't want them taking it out of the budget thinking, oh, we have a cost savings, so then when we have to implement it, it's like, where'd this?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Human Services. Just keep smacking.
I know.
That may be time to let these people know, the ones that we have on record with the letters, that we may, you know, we may want to cut it 25%. I'm just using a particular percentage, at least on some of the larger ones, you know, 225 I wouldn't worry about, but it's something that, I don't know if we collectively should come up with an answer for that, or let Marisa do what she wants to do, but I think it's, again, it is a savings and it's an option, and I know she's working on a little bit of actually finding out what these programs give us. You know, in a lot of cases, they give us the statistics of what it is for Kingston. But again, it's just something that if we don't want to touch it, we don't want to touch it. If we want to come out with a flat thing, we'll let them know ahead of time when they come in, rather than waiting for them to send a letter in and then send a note back and tell them that, you know, we're only going to fund a percentage of it.
Chuck, I did want to say about the human services, I know it's only at 26, and she has a lot of money budgeted and mortgaged, and she's realizing that's not where it needs to be. It needs to be like in rent. And she's going to see an increase in a lot of these coming up, because she's working with a lot of folks right now that are going to be requesting assistance. So I think we're going to see that increase dramatically in the next 3 months.
Telephone and, recreation is at 67%. And I don't know why their telephone and internet is up to 88% unless they gave out another phone or something. I don't know why those are kind of 2 flat fees, I would guess.
That's his cell phone and the Comcast for, the rec building.
Okay, it should be a little lower than that, but it's 2 fixed fees, right? So we didn't budget enough for it, I'm guessing.
No, because now he doesn't have camp, so they're not gonna, it'll go down a little bit.
Okay. I mean, it's not a lot of money. Anyway, they're at 67%. The other, the library is at 61%. of their overall budget. The only thing that's up is their transfer account, which is at 84%. So I'm sure they're aware of that. The museum is at 50%. Heritage is 28%, the smaller one. So bottom line is that at the moment, we are at 63.66.
That's good.
For where we should be with the budget, which is exactly between that and 65 or 67%. So right now, everything is online. The question would be, December 1st, what is there to augment or make up the differences that we need to make up?
Yeah.
That's it, for now.
All right, so we went through that board business. We have correspondence. We already went through the purchase orders. We do have a couple other items in correspondence, so.
We do the timber cut?
It's in the orange folder, correspondence.
So we've done it?
No, we haven't done it yet.
Have not?
No.
Okay.
I just want to make sure we don't miss anything. We've signed, well, I've signed those. That is good. Next proposal. We have this one thing in here, the request for disbursement under the ARPA grant funding from New Hampshire DES. So it looks like it just requires a signature.
That's for the Lakes project. That's
Okay.
not for the PFAS project.
Oh.
Because we have 2 grants with DES.
Okay, because I was looking at the totals on this one and I didn't recognize this one. Okay, so this is just this is already a grant we're already involved in. We're just looking for a disbursement out of the grant. Okay, so do I sign under grant recipient or representative certifying percentage of completion? You want to take a look at that and tell me? I just don't want to sign. After not signing my full name one time, I'm a little hesitant. So we have a notice of intent to cut wood or timber on map 37, lots 24A and 26 in Kingston. It looks like the name of the access road is Exeter Road, Route 111. And the acreage on the lot is 28.4. The acreage of cut is approximately 20 acres with an anticipated start date sometime in September. It looks like it's Rick Russman is the applicant on this, and so it lists out the approximate intents to cut. I don't see any issues with this.
It is what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see.
This one, Susan and I both feel.
Grant recipient, okay.
Because this is an optional line, so.
Yeah. It's okay. We have a legal notice from the town of Hampton, Vertex Towers LLC. The applicant has applied for variances from the town of Hampton Zoning Board of Adjustment to construct a telecommunications facility, including a 150-foot tall monopole-style tower, 156 feet to top of the lightning rod at 17R Barber Road, Hampton, New Hampshire, 03842, tax assessor parcel 111-1-1, located in the Residence A zoning district and groundwater protection overlay. The application, the Town of Hampton Zoning Board of Adjustment applicant will conduct a public hearing on the application on Thursday, August 17th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Selectmen's Meeting Room at Winnicott Road in Hampton. But it looks like it has been postponed to 9/21/23 Thursday at 7 p.m. So if anyone would like to attend the meeting on the 150-foot tall telecommunications tower.
And just in case anyone's wondering why something in Hampton would notify us, they're required, I believe, to notify anyone within a 20-mile radius. It's part of FCC requirement.
Yeah. So we have the Avatar Associates of New England. This is a free listing, limited access. Individuals can subscribe. So this is just that online portion. Okay. Okay, so is this considered a contract or that we have to vote on, or just board consensus? I can go ahead and sign off on it? Okay. Anyone have any issues with me signing this as part of the online access? Didn't think so. These are all the individual proposals for the turnkey proposal, which we already voted on, so I can go through and sign all of those while I pass the rest of the book around. So we got that. We need the approval of meeting minutes from August 21st, 2023. Any further discussion or amendments? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes. Do we have any other non-public we need to go into? Thank goodness.
The non-public meeting minutes for the 21st.
Yeah, there's some,
We did make a motion to seal those. Okay, so I think that's it. Everyone's just gonna make sure we go through, sign all the stuff in that orange folder, and make sure if you haven't gotten the PO folder yet, that's signed, and let me get these signed off.
There was one thing to do with the budget that I forgot to bring up. We do have 2 quotes for the building permit software. I don't know if you want to budget for that. We have Avatar is a little less money. We have the iWorks one, which is the same company they have at the DPW. If we're going to go forward with that, we should put something in the budget. I just wanted to caution you on that.
So was that you evaluating that?
I've been waiting for someone to tell us what we want to do.
So I would say I would like, based off of, the people that are going to be using it, I'd like them to give us an evaluation recommendation of what they thought, and then we could decide whether or not how we want to fund it or move forward, or we may just say, okay, well, until we get these other cost estimates for these other projects, we'll just table it.
Okay.
But I want the people that are using it.
That's been the difficult part, because they have a meeting, but it's kind of, things like this don't get decided, so.
So if we have nothing else, do we want to just adjourn it? So you say no, wait on me? Okay, we will adjourn.